Section 1 Introduction. Welcome, everyone. In this presentation, we're going to discuss one of the biggest shifts happening in clinical research operations today, the transition from ICH GCP E6R2 to E6R3, and more importantly, what auditors and inspectors will actually be looking for under this new framework. Auditors are now evaluating whether the entire trial system works effectively to protect participants, maintain reliable data, and manage risk proactively. In this session, we'll break down what these changes mean practically for investigators, coordinators, sponsors, and clinical trial sites preparing for future audits and inspections. ICH E6R3 was developed because clinical trials today look very different from the trials that existed when earlier versions of GCP were written. Modern trials now involve electronic systems, wearable devices, remote monitoring, decentralized visits, electronic informed consent, home health providers, and increasingly complex data ecosystems. The updated guidance recognizes that traditional oversight approaches are no longer enough for this environment. R3 therefore places greater emphasis on participant-centered trial conduct, technology oversight, data governance, proportional risk management, and operational quality systems. This matters for sites because auditors will increasingly evaluate whether sites can safely and reliably protect participants and produce reliable data. One of the most important things to understand about R3 is that it represents a major mindset shift. Under R2, many organizations focused heavily on documentation completeness, but R3 moves clinical research toward a much more proactive and systems-based model. The updated guidance emphasizes quality by design, critical to quality thinking, risk proportionality, and continuous oversight throughout the trial lifecycle. This means auditors are becoming less interested in whether a site simply has documents. Instead, they want to understand whether risks were identified early, whether oversight was effective, whether systems were controlled, whether participants were adequately protected, and whether the site can consistently generate reliable trial data. R3 essentially asks, does the trial system function safely, reliably, and intelligently? At its core, auditors under R3 are trying to answer a few critical questions. First, were trial participants properly protected? Second, can the data generated by the trial actually be trusted? Third, was oversight effective? And finally, was the study realistically operationalized? So the modern audit is no longer just show me the binder. It is show me that your entire trial ecosystem is functioning appropriately. Section 2. The core philosophy of our thoughts. At the center of ICH E6R3 are several foundational principles that shape how modern clinical trials should be conducted. Participant protection remains one of the strongest themes throughout the guidance. Auditors will increasingly examine whether sites are actively protecting participant rights, safety, and overall well-being throughout the study lifecycle. Scientific soundness is also heavily emphasized. Trials must be designed in a way that can realistically generate reliable and meaningful evidence. Operational weaknesses, unclear procedures, or unrealistic workflows can directly affect data credibility. R3 also strengthens the focus on quality and integrity across the entire clinical trial system. Auditors may review how sites manage oversight, training, computerized systems, risk management, and ongoing quality activities. Ethical conduct continues to remain central within GCP. The guidance reinforces informed consent, independent review, transparency, and participant-centered trial conduct throughout the research process. These principles collectively shape how auditors now evaluate trial quality under R3. Risk proportionality is one of the most important operational concepts introduced throughout R3. The guidance recognizes that clinical trial activities do not all carry the same level of importance or risk. Oversight should therefore be proportionate to the potential impact on participant safety and data reliability. Activities connected to participant safety, eligibility confirmation, investigational product management, or primary endpoint data naturally require stronger oversight and tighter controls. Auditors may explore how sponsors and sites identified higher risk processes and how resources were prioritized around those areas. Questions may focus on risk assessment methods, escalation pathways, monitoring intensity, and mitigation strategies. Hour 3 also encourages organizations to reduce unnecessary operational burden. Sites are therefore expected to demonstrate thoughtful and intentional oversight rather than uniform oversight across every task. R3 introduces a much stronger focus on critical to quality factors, commonly referred to as CTQ factors. These are the activities, processes, and data elements that have the greatest impact on participant safety, protocol integrity, and the reliability of trial results. Examples often include informed consent, participant eligibility, safety reporting, investigational product administration, and primary endpoint collection. Auditors may ask whether the site clearly understood which processes were considered critical within the study and whether additional controls or oversight measures were applied to those areas. CTQ thinking also influences monitoring plans, protocol development, training priorities, deviation management, and quality assurance activities. R3 places strong emphasis on quality by design throughout the clinical trial lifecycle. The guidance encourages sponsors and investigators to think carefully about operational feasibility before a study even begins. Protocol complexity, participant burden, workflow clarity, staffing realities, and technology requirements all influence overall trial quality. Auditors may examine whether the trial was realistically executable within the participating sites and whether unnecessary complexity was avoided during study planning. The guidance also emphasizes collecting data that is meaningful and necessary for the objectives of the trial. Quality planning is therefore expected to begin early during protocol development, risk assessment, and operational setup rather than later during monitoring or audit preparation. Section 3. What auditors will look for at the site level. Investigator oversight is expected to become one of the highest focus areas during audits under R3. The updated guidance reinforces that investigators may delegate activities, but responsibility for participant safety and overall trial conduct still remains with the investigator. Auditors will likely assess whether the principal investigator was actively involved throughout the study lifecycle. This may include review of safety events, protocol decisions, eligibility assessments, deviation management, and monitoring escalations. R3 also expands expectations around documented oversight of delegated responsibilities and external service providers. Sites should therefore be prepared to demonstrate how investigators supervise trial activities. Delegation and training records are expected to receive much closer review under R3. The guidance specifically emphasizes documented delegation of activities, documented training, and investigator oversight of delegated responsibilities. Auditors may compare delegation logs with source documentation, system access, staff activities, and protocol responsibilities to evaluate whether duties were appropriately assigned and supervised. Training expectations may also extend beyond initial onboarding. Auditors may examine whether staff received protocol-specific training, safety training, system training, investigational product training, and retraining after amendments or procedural updates. Sites should ensure that delegation and training records accurately reflect how the study was truly conducted operationally. Service provider oversight is another major area expanded under R3. The guidance broadens the older CRO-focused language and places stronger emphasis on oversight of all external service providers involved in trial activities. Modern clinical trials frequently involve central laboratories, home nursing services, imaging vendors, wearable device providers, local pharmacies, and electronic platform vendors. Auditors may examine whether sites clearly understood who was responsible for each activity, how communication occurred, how issues were escalated, and how oversight responsibilities were maintained throughout the study. The guidance also recognizes that activities may be delegated or facilitated externally, while accountability expectations still remain in. Sites should therefore be prepared to explain how external partners were managed, supervised, and integrated into study operations. R3 strengthens the focus on risk-based monitoring and continuous quality management throughout the trial lifecycle. Auditors may review how sites responded to monitoring findings, protocol deviations, recurring operational problems, safety concerns, and escalation events. CAPA processes may receive particular attention. Auditors may examine whether issues were investigated appropriately, whether root causes were identified, and whether corrective actions were actually effective. The updated guidance also highlights proactive quality assurance activities designed to identify serious non-compliance early and support timely corrective action. Data integrity remains one of the strongest operational themes throughout R3. The updated guidance expands the definition of source data and essential records to include metadata, electronic systems, and non-traditional digital data sources. Auditors may increasingly review audit trails, timestamp histories, metadata, user activity, and system traceability. The Alcoa principles continue to remain highly relevant during inspections, particularly around ensuring that data remain attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. R3 also recognizes that trial data may exist across multiple platforms and repositories, including wearable systems, ePro platforms, laboratory portals, imaging systems, and external healthcare records. Sites should therefore understand where data originates, how changes are tracked, and how integrity is maintained throughout the entire data lifecycle. Computerized systems oversight is deeply integrated throughout R3. The guidance includes expanded expectations around secure system access, user permissions, data protection, and management of computerized systems used within clinical trials. Auditors may review access management practices, permission assignments, inactive account handling, and security controls surrounding study systems. Password sharing, generic user accounts, or delayed access revocation may create major concerns regarding data integrity and accountability. The guidance also expects organizations to maintain oversight of both sponsor-managed and site-managed systems. Sites should therefore understand which systems fall under their responsibility, how incidents are escalated, and how computerized system issues are documented and resolved. R3 significantly expands the modern understanding of source data and source records. The updated guidance recognizes that clinical trial data may now originate from various sources. The guidance also states that investigators should have timely access to relevant external data that may affect participant safety, treatment decisions, or eligibility assessments. Modern source data management now involves oversight across multiple systems, vendors, and digital workflows. Sites should be prepared to explain how data are verified, reconciled, reviewed, and protected across these increasingly complex trial environments. Section 4. Participant-centric expectations. Participant experience receives much greater emphasis throughout R3. The guidance repeatedly highlights the importance of reducing unnecessary burden on participants and ensuring that clinical trials remain operationally feasible for both participants and sites. Auditors may examine whether trial procedures were realistically manageable within the participating population and whether the study design created avoidable complexity. This may include review of visit schedules, travel requirements, protocol procedures, remote participation options, and participant retention strategies. The guidance also supports decentralized approaches that may reduce participant burden, including remote visits, home health support, electronic systems, and local care options when appropriate. Sites should therefore be prepared to explain how participant needs, convenience, and feasibility were considered during study conduct. R3 reinforces informed consent as an ongoing communication process throughout the study rather than a single event at enrollment. The updated guidance expands expectations around participant understanding, transparency, withdrawal handling, and communication regarding participant data. Auditors may examine whether participants were given sufficient opportunity to ask questions, understand study procedures, understand risks, and make informed decisions regarding participation. The guidance also adds expectations regarding communication about follow-up procedures after discontinuation, handling of participant data after withdrawal, and availability of trial results when appropriate. Sites should therefore ensure that informed consent discussions remain participant-centered, clearly documented, and continuously supported throughout participation in the trial. R3 places stronger emphasis on diversity and inclusion within clinical trial participation. The guidance recognizes that broader participant representation improves the reliability, applicability, and usefulness of trial results across real-world populations. Auditors may review whether recruitment approaches unintentionally excluded certain populations or whether barriers to participation were appropriately considered. This may include evaluation of recruitment methods, accessibility, language considerations, visit burden, technology access, and retention approaches for underrepresented groups. The guidance also highlights the importance of considering multiple demographic factors during trial design and participant engagement planning. Participant safety oversight remains one of the most critical areas of focus under R3. The updated guidance expands expectations around safety reporting, investigator responsibility, escalation processes, and ongoing participant follow-up. Auditors may evaluate how quickly safety events were identified, documented, assessed, escalated, and communicated throughout the study. The guidance also reinforces that delegated safety activities do not remove investigator responsibility for participant protection and reporting compliance. R3 introduces additional emphasis around managing immediate hazards, ongoing participant follow-up, and maintaining oversight throughout the entire participation period. Sites should therefore maintain clear and well-controlled workflows for safety review, escalation handling, follow-up documentation, and communication with sponsors, investigators, and ethics boards when required. Section 5. Investigational Product IP Expectations. Investigational product management remains one of the highest risk operational areas during clinical trial audits. R3 expands expectations around investigational product accountability, handling, dispensing, administration, return, and storage oversight. Auditors may review whether shipment receipt, storage conditions, dispensing activities, inventory reconciliation, and accountability documentation were maintained accurately throughout the study. The updated guidance also reinforces that investigators retain responsibility for investigational product oversight even when certain activities are facilitated by sponsors, pharmacies, or delegated staff. Particular attention may be given to dispensing accuracy, expired product management, inventory discrepancies, temperature monitoring, and documentation consistency across multiple systems. R3 formally recognizes decentralized investigational product management approaches within modern clinical trials. The guidance allows investigational products to be shipped directly to participants, dispensed through local healthcare facilities or pharmacies, and administered within participant homes when appropriate safeguards are in place. These approaches create additional operational and oversight responsibilities for sponsors and sites. Auditors may evaluate how shipment integrity was maintained, participant identity was verified, storage conditions were monitored, accountability was documented, and participant safety was protected throughout remote activities. Home administration and decentralized dispensing also increase the importance of participant education, communication workflows, and documentation accuracy. Sites should therefore be prepared to explain how oversight was maintained when investigational product activities occurred outside the traditional research site environment. Temperature excursions continue to represent a major audit and inspection risk area within clinical research operations. R3 emphasizes that investigational product management should include safeguards that ensure product integrity, protocol compliance, and participant safety throughout the handling process. Auditors may closely examine how sites responded when temperature deviations occurred. This may include review of escalation timelines, quarantine procedures, sponsor communication, stability assessments, and final disposition documentation. The quality of documentation surrounding excursions may also receive significant attention. Missing records, delayed escalation, or unclear decision-making pathways may raise concerns regarding overall investigational product oversight. Sites should therefore maintain clear and controlled procedures for identifying, documenting, escalating, and resolving temperature-related incidents while protecting investigational product integrity throughout the study lifecycle. Section 6. Data Governance and Technology. Data governance becomes a much larger operational focus under R3. The updated guidance introduces an entire section dedicated to systems and data that may affect participant safety, participant rights, and the reliability of trial results. Auditors may evaluate how sites and sponsors manage data access, security, retention, traceability, and protection throughout the data lifecycle. The guidance also expands expectations around computerized systems oversight, including user permissions, access reviews, system validation, and protection against unauthorized alteration or loss of data. Data governance discussions during audits may now include digital platforms, cloud-based systems, external data repositories, and participant-generated data streams. Sites should therefore understand where data are stored, who has access, how changes are tracked, and how data integrity is maintained across multiple environments. R3 formally recognizes the growing role of decentralized and technology-enabled trial models. The guidance discusses remote visits, electronic systems, local healthcare involvement, and participant-centered approaches that support trial flexibility and accessibility. Auditors may examine how remote activities were supervised, how participant identity was verified, how protocol compliance was maintained, and how communication occurred across decentralized workflows. Electronic consent, telemedicine visits, home nursing services, and remote safety monitoring may all require clearly documented operational controls. Sites should therefore be prepared to explain how oversight and participant protection were maintained when study activities occurred outside the traditional clinic environment. Electronic systems oversight is expected to become increasingly detailed during audits under R3. The guidance expands expectations around computerized systems used within clinical trials and emphasizes ongoing system reliability, validation, traceability, and security oversight. Auditors may review ESOS workflows, ETMF management, EPRO systems, audit trails, validation documentation, and incident handling processes. The guidance also recommends periodic review of computerized systems to ensure they remain appropriately validated throughout their life cycle. System incidents that could significantly affect trial data or system security may also receive close scrutiny during inspections. Sites should therefore maintain clear documentation surrounding system use. R3 was designed to accommodate modern technology and evolving clinical trial methods. The guidance recognizes increasing use of digital health technologies, wearable devices, automated systems, mobile applications, and participant-facing electronic tools. These technologies may improve efficiency, participant engagement, and data collection capabilities, but they also introduce additional concerns surrounding reliability, oversight, validation, and data integrity. Auditors may examine whether sites and sponsors clearly understood how digital tools functioned, what risks they introduced, how issues were escalated, and how participant safety and data reliability were protected. As technology becomes more integrated into trial operations, organizations will increasingly need structured governance, operational controls, and clear accountability surrounding emerging digital systems. Section 7. Non-compliance and CAPAS. R3 places much stronger emphasis on identifying, escalating, and managing serious non-compliance during clinical trials. The guidance specifically discusses situations that may significantly impact participant rights, participant safety, or the reliability of trial results. Auditors may examine whether sites recognized important issues early and whether appropriate escalation pathways were followed. Repeated protocol deviations, unresolved operational problems, missing oversight, falsified data, or recurring documentation issues may all raise concerns regarding overall site quality management. The updated guidance also emphasizes sponsor responsibility for identifying serious non-compliance and taking appropriate corrective actions when issues persist. Sites should therefore maintain strong internal review processes and ensure that operational issues are addressed promptly before they develop into broader compliance concerns. Corrective and preventive action processes are expected to receive greater attention under R3. Auditors may evaluate whether sites responded appropriately when problems, deviations, monitoring findings, or operational failures were identified. A strong CAPA process usually begins with a clear understanding of why the issue occurred in the first place. Superficial fixes without proper root cause analysis may raise concerns regarding quality oversight. Auditors may also review whether corrective actions were implemented effectively, preventive measures reduced recurrence, follow-up activities were documented, and resolutions were completed within appropriate timelines. The updated guidance highlights proactive quality assurance activities designed to identify causes of serious non-compliance and support corrective action implementation. Well-organized CAPA documentation often reflects the maturity of a site's overall quality system. Many future audit findings under R3 are likely to center around oversight quality, operational control, and documentation reliability. Poor investigator oversight may remain one of the most commonly cited issues, particularly when investigators appear disconnected from daily study conduct or safety review activities. Auditors may also identify concerns involving incomplete training records, unclear delegation practices, weak supervision of vendors, delayed CAPA implementation, or missing documentation supporting protocol compliance. Computerized system oversight is also expected to become a larger inspection focus. Access control problems, delayed account deactivation, password sharing, or weak system traceability may create significant concerns regarding data integrity. Incomplete or inconsistent source documentation may also remain a major finding category, especially as source data become more decentralized and digitally distributed across multiple systems. Many of these findings ultimately reflect broader weaknesses in oversight, communication, training, and operational quality systems. Section 8. How CITES should prepare. Preparing for R3 requires more than updating documents or revising SOPs. The updated guidance encourages sites to build operational systems that consistently support participant safety, reliable data, and proactive quality management throughout the trial lifecycle. Sites may need stronger communication workflows between investigators, coordinators, pharmacists, vendors, monitors, and external providers involved in decentralized activities. Continuous oversight is also becoming increasingly important. Auditors may expect sites to identify risks early, monitor trends, escalate concerns appropriately, and maintain active operational control throughout study conduct. R3 also reinforces the importance of a quality culture where staff understand protocol priorities, oversight expectations, participant protection responsibilities, and data integrity principles. Audit readiness under ARA3 increasingly depends on continuous operational control rather than preparation immediately before an inspection. Sites should routinely review delegation records, staff training, access permissions, investigational product documentation, essential records, and monitoring follow-up activities. Auditors may also examine whether findings identified during monitoring visits were addressed appropriately and whether unresolved issues remained open for extended periods. Computerized system access reviews are becoming particularly important as studies rely more heavily on digital platforms and remote technologies. Regular internal quality reviews may help sites identify operational weaknesses early and reduce the likelihood of larger compliance findings during formal audits. Auditors often use interviews with coordinators and site staff to assess how well trial operations are actually understood and controlled at the site level. Questions may focus on delegation oversight, investigational product management, participant safety workflows, protocol deviation handling, computerized systems, and communication processes. Auditors may also compare verbal responses with source documentation, delegation logs, training records, and monitoring reports to evaluate operational consistency. Strong responses are usually clear, confident, operationally detailed, and aligned with documented workflows. Uncertainty regarding escalation pathways, oversight responsibilities, or quality processes may raise concerns regarding site training and operational control. Sites should therefore ensure that study teams understand not only what tasks are performed, but also why those processes are important within the broader quality system. ICH E6R3 reflects a major evolution in how clinical trial quality and oversight are viewed within modern research. The guidance expands expectations around participants' protection, risk management, investigator oversight, computerized systems, decentralized trial activities, and operational quality management. Auditors are increasingly evaluating how sites function operationally across the entire study lifecycle. Sites should develop strong communication systems, proactive quality processes, organized oversight structures, and operational consistency to be better positioned for future inspections under R3. Thank you for watching. If you found this video useful, consider subscribing to RESPLAIN on YouTube and give this video a thumbs up.